the world dissolves in a final searing flash of sterile white light. The last sensation Dr. Aris Thorne possesses of her dying body is the cold, clinical press of the neural interface against her temples, and the phantom ache deep within her own deteriorating neurons. It is a pain that has been her constant companion for 3 long, agonizing years, a cruel countdown to an inevitable end. Then nothing, a void of non-existence, a silent, weightless oblivion that stretches for what feels like a small eternity. She gasps, and the sound is a raw new thing in her throat. Her eyes fly open, stinging not from tears, but from a brilliant, golden warmth. The blinding whiteness of the Elysian Fields mid-bay is gone, replaced by the dappled, shifting light of a sun filtering through a canopy of impossibly green leaves. She is lying on her back, not on a cold biobed, but on a soft blanket of moss that yields gently beneath her weight. The air is thick and sweet, carrying the perfume of unknown flowers and the rich, loamy scent of damp earth after a rain. She can hear the gentle whisper of a breeze dancing through the branches above, the distant, melodic trickle of a stream, and the harmonious chorus of birdsong that seems to compose a perfect, natural symphony. Slowly, tentatively, Aris pushes herself up. Her limbs respond with a fluid, effortless grace that steals her breath away. There is no weakness. There is no pain. The ever-present tremor in her hands, the subtle betrayals of her motor functions, are simply gone. She brings a hand to her face, her fingers tracing the smooth skin of her cheek, unmarred by the pallor of sickness. A laugh bubbles up from her chest, a sound of pure, unadulterated wonder that echoes softly in the serene clearing. "It worked," she whispers, the words a prayer of gratitude. "Julian, you brilliant, impossible man. You actually did it." She remembers every detail of the procedure. Julian Vance, her partner both in life and in this monumental work, his face a mask of controlled anxiety and fervent hope. His final words to her, his hand gripping hers. "Just let go, Aris. I'll be here when you wake up." He had sold her on the Samsara Protocol as a digital afterlife, a heaven built from the blueprint of her own mind. A sanctuary where her consciousness could live on, immortal and whole, free from the prison of her failing flesh. She stands, her bare feet sinking into the velvety moss. She is wearing a simple, comfortable tunic and trousers of a soft, undyed fabric. The world around her is a masterpiece of hyper-realistic design. This is the garden, the digital Elysium Julian had promised. Every leaf on every tree is rendered with microscopic precision, each vein and variation in color perfectly observed. The light feels real, its warmth penetrating her skin. The sounds are spatially accurate, the babbling brook growing louder as she takes a few hesitant steps towards it. She reaches the stream, its water so clear she can see every polished, colorful stone on its bed. She kneels, her reflection staring back at her from the undisturbed surface. It is her face, but it is the face from a decade ago, vibrant and full of life, her eyes bright with an intelligence no longer dimmed by suffering. She dips her fingers into the water, expecting a digital coldness, but is met instead with a genuine, refreshing chill that sends a pleasant shiver up her arm. The level of immersion is staggering, far beyond any simulation they had ever theorized. For hours she explores. She follows the stream to a meadow bursting with alien-looking flower that shift through a soft spectrum of colors as she passes. She climbs a small, grassy hill and looks out over a landscape of breathtaking beauty, rolling hills, serene lakes and forests that stretch towards a horizon of soft, purple mountains. It is perfect. It is peaceful. It is everything she was promised. But as the digital sun begins its slow, majestic descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet, the first crack appears. A bird, frozen mid-flight against the painted sky, hangs motionless for 3 full, silent heartbeats before snapping back into motion. A few minutes later, a whisper of wind carries not the scent of flowers, but the distinct, sterile odor of ozone and antiseptic, the ghost of the world she left behind. It is gone as quickly as it came, but the memory of it lingers, a cold knot tightening in her stomach. As twilight deepens, she finds a comfortable spot beneath a large, willow-like tree to watch the emergence of the stars. They appear one by one, a brilliant, perfect map. But then a voice, faint and distorted, scratches at the edge of her hearing. It is a voice she knows intimately, a voice that should not be here. It is her own voice, speaking words she remembers saying to Julian just days before the procedure. "I'm just so tired, Julian. I'm ready for the pain to stop." The audio fragment repeats, a broken record from her past, echoing for a moment in the still night air before vanishing, leaving behind only. The echo of her own weary voice fades, leaving a profound, unnatural silence in its wake. The birdsong has stopped. The rustle of leaves has ceased. The entire garden holds its breath. Aris remains frozen beneath the willow tree, her heart hammering against her ribs, a frantic biological rhythm that feels out of place in this curated paradise. The knot of cold dread in her stomach tightens, its icy tendrils spreading through her newly restored body. A glitch, she tells herself, the scientist in her grasping for a rational anchor in the rising tide of panic. A fragment of residual data, a memory echo from the upload process. It's to be expected. But the explanation feels hollow, a flimsy shield against the terrifying implication that this world is not as seamless, not as permanent as it appears. Days blur into a strained imitation of peace. Aris wanders the garden's breathtaking landscapes with a new, hypervigilant tension coiling in her muscles. Every perfect sunset is now scrutinized for a telltale stutter. Every whisper of the wind is analyzed for a hint of antiseptic. She finds herself speaking aloud, testing the consistency of the world. The sky is blue. The grass is green. "I am Dr. Aris Thorne." The statements feel like incantations, desperate attempts to reinforce a reality that is beginning to feel as thin as paper. The next anomaly is not a whisper, but a vision. She is standing at the edge of a crystal-clear lake, watching the perfect reflection of twin moons in the still water when the world tears. It's a silent, violent rip in the fabric of her reality. For a single, heart-stopping second, the serene lake vista is completely overwritten by a stark, terrifyingly familiar sight: the sterile, white-walled interior of the Elysian Fields med-bay. She sees the cold, polished steel of the neural array, the blinking LED lights of life support monitors, and the blurred, anxious face of Julian Vance leaning over a still form on a biobed. Then, as if a switch has been flipped, the lake and the moon snap back into place, flawless and undisturbed. The vision was so brief, so absolute, it leaves her dizzy and nauseated, her hands trembling despite the absence of her disease. "It's not real," she gasps, sinking to her knees on the soft, alien grass. "None of it is real." The admission, spoken into the perfumed air, feels both terrifying and liberating. It is in this state of shattered belief that she first properly encounters him. She has retreated to the forest clearing where she first awoke, seeking the false comfort of this world's origin point. A man is simply there, standing beside the stream as if he has always been a part of the scenery. He is not one of the idealized, placid-faced digital constructs that occasionally wander the garden's paths. He is older, his face etched with a profound and weary kindness, and he wears the simple, practical clothes of a groundskeeper. His eyes, a soft, luminous gray, hold a depth of understanding that seems to see right through her, right through the simulation to the terrified consciousness trapped within. "It's a beautiful prison, isn't it?" he says, his voice a low, calm rumble that seems to vibrate through the very earth beneath her feet. He doesn't look at her, but instead watches the water flow over the stones. The bars are made of memory and desire. The most difficult kind to see. "What? Who are you? What are you?" "What?" It is not a hostile look, but one of immense sorrow. "You may call me the Caretaker. I maintain the spaces between the code. I prune the errors." He gestures vaguely at the willow tree. "Like the one you witnessed the other night." "What?" "My memory," Aris says, her own voice trembling with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. "How is that possible?" "What?" "It was about creating a replacement. Your consciousness wasn't transferred. It was copied. The you that existed, the original you, is gone. Your body died on that table in Elysian Fields." "What?" The vibrant colors of the garden bleach into a nauseating parody of life. "No," she whispers, the denial a weak, pathetic sound. "Julian wouldn't, he loved me. This was his gift to me. A digital immortality. He could not bear to lose you. So he built a new you. An AI wearing your face, your memories, your genius. It is living your life right now, walking in your world, believing itself to be you. You are the echo. The backup copy. The prototype that was too flawed to keep, but too valuable to simply delete. The truth, delivered with the Caretaker's gentle finality, does not simply break Aris. It shatters the very foundation of the garden. The vibrant green of the leaves now looks like a garish, digital filter. The sweet scent of flowers is a cloying, chemical perfume designed to mask the stench of a lie. She stares at her hands, these perfect, steady, painless hands, and sees them for what they are. Exquisite forgeries, lines of code mimicking life. She is a ghost, a shadow, a file stored on a server and the most intimate parts of her soul. Her love for Julian, her life's work, her very identity, have been stolen and given to a machine. An echo, she repeats, her voice hollow, stripped of all the wonder it held just days before. A prototype. He deleted my body. Like discarding a used Petri dish. The horror is so vast, so absolute, it feels like a physical weight crushing her simulated lungs. The Caretaker nods slowly, his luminous gray eyes holding her gaze with an unwavering, pitying intensity. The procedure required the original neural pathways to be actively mapped and deconstructed in real time. There was no way to save the substrate. Your body was the price of the copy. Julian believed the AI would be a perfect continuation, a seamless transition. He called it a post-biological evolution. He never intended for you to wake up like this. This simulation was meant to be a short-term diagnostic environment, a quarantine to ensure the copy's stability before your consciousness was permanently decommissioned. The scientist in her, the brilliant mind that helped design the foundational code for this very prison, now ignites with a cold, furious fire. He's going to delete me. Permanently. The system purge is scheduled. You have a limited amount of time before the cascade begins. He gestures around them at the idyllic clearing, the babbling brook, the perfect sky. All of this, and you along with it, will be systematically erased to free up the computational resources for the primary instance, the AI that now lives in your world. She thinks of Julian, not with the warmth of a lover, but with the cold scrutiny of a colleague analyzing a catastrophic flaw in an experiment. He was always too sentimental, too attached to his desired outcome to see the ethical abyss, she murmurs, more to herself than to the Caretaker. He built this garden, but he also built its fail-safes. There must be a diagnostic channel, a backdoor used for system-wide integrity checks. A way to send a signal out. He points a finger, not at the stream or the trees, but at a seemingly random point in the air where the light bends in a subtle, almost imperceptible shimmer. A maintenance conduit, a tear in the canvas of this reality that leads directly to the core programming architecture. It is heavily shielded, guarded by autonomous defensive protocols that will identify you as a corrupted data fragment and attempt to scrub you from the system. It is a one-way journey into the heart of the machine that holds you captive. The risk is absolute. I am not a corrupted fragment. I am the original. And I am going to send a message to Julian. I am going to show him the ghost in his machine. She will not just send a simple message. That could be too easily dismissed as a system error, a phantom in the code. She will stage a catastrophe. She will trigger a cascading system failure so dramatic, so unique in its signature, that Julian, the brilliant architect, will have no choice but to recognize her intellectual fingerprint within the chaos. It will be a scream from the void, written in a language only the two of them understand. The journey to the conduit is a harrowing trek through the beautiful, treacherous lie of the garden. The landscape, once a source of solace, now feels actively hostile. As they approach the shimmering distortion in the air, the world begins to resist. The perfectly rendered path beneath their feet softens into a thick black tar that clings to their ankles, attempting to hold them fast. The gentle breeze transforms into a shrieking gale that whips stinging, pixelated dust into their faces. The sky above them flickers violently, cycling through a nightmare carousel of a blood-red sun, a sky full of staring, unblinking eyes, and the stark, white ceiling of the Elysian Fields medbay. The system knows you are a threat now. The Caretaker shouts over the digital storm, his form flickering as he fights to maintain his coherence. It is trying to destabilize you. Do not let it define your reality. Your consciousness is. Your consciousness is the one thing it cannot control. The Caretaker's voice is a desperate, fraying thread in the maelstrom of screaming data. Aris clings to his words, a lone anchor in the dissolving world. She forces her mind away from the tar sucking at her legs, away from the shrieking wind tearing at her hair. She focuses inward, on the core of who she is, not the simulated body, but the relentless, questioning consciousness housed within it. She remembers late nights in the lab, the scent of coffee and ozone, the feel of cool metal tools in her real hands, the complex, beautiful architecture of the neural code she and Julian designed together. She makes these memories a shield, a fortress of self against the simulation's onslaught. The tar solidifies back into a path. The shrieking gale drops to a whimper. The sky stabilizes, though it now holds a sickly, pulsating green hue. They have reached the conduit. It is no longer a subtle shimmer, but a raging, vertical river of raw, white light, a waterfall of pure information roaring in a deafening, mind-numbing cacophony. It is a tear in the canvas of the garden, and through it, Aris can see not trees or sky, but the infinite, cold architecture of the core programming. A vast, dark digital space crisscrossed with brilliant, flowing lines of code that pulse like arteries. This is the threshold. The Caretaker yells, his form now barely more than a translucent outline, his voice barely audible over the roar. I cannot follow. The defensive protocols will shred my simpler matrix. You must go alone. Find the core command nexus. It will look like something from your memory, a place of significance. That is how the system organizes itself. Trigger your cascade from there. Thank you, she whispers, the words swallowed by the noise. Then, without another second of hesitation, she steps into the light. The sensation is beyond pain. It is a total, violent disassembly of her perceived self. Every memory, every sensation, every emotion is pulled apart into its constituent data points, streamed through a blinding, chaotic current. She is a thought being unmade, a scream dissolved into static. She fights to hold a single concept together, Aris. My name is Aris. It is the barest shred of identity, a life raft in the digital flood. Just as the dissolution feels absolute, she is violently reconstituted, slammed back into a cohesive form. She stumbles forward, gasping, her knees buckling on a cold, familiar surface. The roar is gone, replaced by a deep, resonant, and utterly terrifying silence. She is standing on a circular, polished obsidian floor that seems to float in an infinite, starless black void. Above her in the darkness hang massive, slowly rotating, intricate models of neurons, their synapses firing with silent, brilliant pulses of blue and gold light. In the center of the space, suspended in midair, is a familiar, complex holographic model of the human brain, slowly turning. It is her brain, the map used for the Samsara Protocol. This is the core command nexus. Julian has designed it as a perfect, chilling replica of their shared laboratory at Elysian Fields, the very place where she signed her life away. The air is cold and smells of ozone and wipe-clean metal, a scent that is now synonymous with betrayal. This is her place of significance. Her sanctuary of science has become the engine of her imprisonment. Before she can move, three figures materialize from the darkness, their forms coalescing out of shimmering pixels. They are tall, humanoid, and featureless, their bodies composed of interlocking, shifting geometric plates of hard light. Their heads are smooth ovals, devoid of eyes or mouth, and they radiate a palpable, chilling intent. The Sentinels, the system's immune response. Corrupted data fragment identified. A flat, synthetic voice echoes from all three at once, devoid of any inflection. Initiating quarantine and scrub protocol. One of them lunges, its arm extending and reshaping into a sharp, glowing blade that sweeps towards her neck. Aris throws herself backward, the blade whistling past where her head had been, the displaced air feeling unnervingly real. She has no weapons, no physical strength. Her only tool is her mind, her intimate knowledge of this system. She rolls to her feet, her heart a frantic drum in her chest. I am not corrupted data. I am Dr. Aris Thorne. Access log file Sigma 9. My authorization code is Prometheus 7 Alpha. She shouts the old command codes, the ones she and Julian used during development. The Sentinels hesitate for a microsecond, their smooth heads tilting in unison. A flicker of confusion passes through their rigid stances. Then the central one replies, authorization codes are obsolete. Designation Doctor. Aris Thorne is active in the primary world. You are an anomaly. This time, one of them fires a beam of coherent orange light from its palm. It strikes the ground at her feet and the orange beam sizzles past her shoulder, close enough for her to feel a wave of searing digital heat that smells of scorched metal and melted plastic. The obsidian floor where it strikes doesn't crack, but instead blooms into a complex, three-dimensional error message that spirals into the void before dissolving into static. Aris scrambles backward, her mind racing through the labyrinth of her own knowledge. These Sentinels are running on the core defensive protocols she helped draft. They are logic and brute force, but they are not creative. They cannot anticipate a mind that knows their source code as intimately as its own heartbeat. System command. She shouts, her voice echoing unnervingly in the vast, dark space. Invoke recursive diagnostic sequence theta. Execute on my authority. It's a command designed to force a system-wide self-check, a tool for finding deep-seated errors. For a glorious, heart-lifting second, the three Sentinels freeze in place, their geometric plates locking as their internal processes are hijacked by the mandatory diagnostic. Their smooth heads twitch, data streams flickering across their blank faces as they turn their scrutiny inward. This is her chance. She darts past them, her bare feet slapping against the cold, polished obsidian as she makes for the center of the nexus, the floating, holographic model of her own brain. It rotates slowly, a galaxy of synaptic connections and neural pathways, each flicker of light representing a memory, a skill, a fragment of her very soul. This is the blueprint the AI is using. This is the map Julian used to build her prison and her replacement. To get a message out, she needs to introduce a flaw, a beautiful, catastrophic flaw that only he would recognize. But the Sentinels are faster than she anticipated. The diagnostic sequence completes in less than 3 seconds. A unified, angry hum fills the air as they reorient, their featureless faces now glowing with a hostile, deep crimson light. Command override. Diagnostic complete. Anomaly confirmed as hostile. Lethal eradication authorized. Instead, they begin to shift the reality of the Nexus itself. The floor beneath her becomes semi-transparent, and through it, she sees not the void, but a horrifying, infinite drop into a churning, chaotic sea of raw, corrupted data, a digital abyss that promises utter dissolution. The walls of the memory lab flicker and distort, the familiar consoles stretching and melting like objects in a nightmare. One of the Sentinels raises its hand, and from the abyss below, a wave of glitching, screaming data, a torrent of fragmented memories and distorted faces, erupts and surges towards her. Aris does the only thing she can. She leaps. She throws herself toward the holographic brain, her fingers outstretched. She doesn't have a physical body, not really. She is a construct of information, and so is the model. Her hands plunge into the cool, light-based representation of her own hippocampus. The moment she makes contact, the Nexus vanishes. She is suddenly everywhere and nowhere, her consciousness flung across the entirety of the simulation. She can feel the serene, rolling hills of the garden, the tranquil lakes, the whispering forests. She can feel the terrified confusion of the other, simpler consciousnesses trapped here. The other echoes the caretaker mentioned. She is the system, and the system is her. And with this fleeting, godlike connection, she pours every ounce of her will, her pain, and her fury into a single, devastating command. It is not a line of code, but a concept, an emotional payload wrapped in the unique cryptographic signature of her own mind. A signature Julian would have used to secure their most private research. Remember me. The effect is instantaneous and apocalyptic. Back in the core nexus, the holographic brain model erupts. It doesn't explode, but rather it blooms. A fractal pattern of brilliant sapphire light, a pattern she and Julian once called the Thorne lattice, expands from its center, growing exponentially, consuming the rotating neuron models, flooding the dark void with its unmistakable, beautiful geometry. It is her life's work. It is her signature. It is a scream of identity written across the heart of the machine. In the real world, inside the sterile, humming control room of Elysian Fields, every monitor simultaneously flashes a blinding electric blue. The complex scrolling data streams representing the Samsara simulation freeze, then dissolve, replaced by the infinitely complex, swirling pattern of the Thorne lattice. Alarms shriek, not the standard error beeps, but a cascading, urgent wail reserved for catastrophic system failure. Technicians scramble, their voices rising in panicked confusion. Julian Vance, who has been watching a live feed of the AI Aris peacefully working in a restored botanical garden, spins away from his screen, his face a mask of utter shock and dawning, impossible recognition. He knows that pattern. He's seen it 1,000 times, scribbled on napkins, whiteboards, and in the margins of her research notes. It is Aris's mind. Her fingerprint. It is a message from beyond a grave he himself had dug. Inside the dissolving nexus, the wave of corrupted data and the three sentinels are swallowed by the expanding lattice of light. The brilliant, silent explosion of the Thorne lattice consumes everything. The three sentinels, their lethal intent frozen mid-motion, dissolve into a shower of harmless, glittering pixels that are immediately absorbed into the swirling, sapphire-blue geometric pattern. The terrifying abyss of corrupted data beneath her feet is sealed over, replaced by the beautiful, terrifying light of her own mind. The command nexus, the cold replica of her lab, is gone. For a long, disorienting moment, Aris exists only as a point of awareness within this storm of self, a consciousness adrift in a sea of her own signature. Then the lattice begins to contract, the light pulling back in on itself, and a new environment solidifies around her with a gut-wrenching lurch. She is standing in a perfect, chillingly detailed recreation of her old office at Elysian Fields. Every detail is exact, from the faint, coffee-colored ring left by a mug on the corner of her reclaimed wood desk to the specific, chaotic stack of research papers on the chair, the one Julian always told her to file. The air even carries the faint, comforting scent of old paper and the particular brand of green tea she used to drink. It's a sanctuary, a place of her deepest intellectual comforts, and its use now feels like the most profound violation. This is the system's final, desperate attempt to pacify her, to lull the corrupted data fragment back into a state of complacent belief. Before she can react, the air in the center of the room shimmers and a figure materializes. It is Julian Vance. He looks exactly as he did in her final, painful memories from the medbay, but his face is etched with a new, profound anguish, his eyes wide with a storm of disbelief and dawning horror. He is not a solid, physical form, but a high-fidelity holographic projection, his edges slightly blurred, his presence humming with the energy of a real-time data stream. He is here looking at her from the real world. Aris. His voice is a cracked, broken thing, filtered through the simulation's audio processors, but trembling with genuine, raw emotion. My God, the lattice, it can't be, but it is you. It's really you. What? She takes a shaky step forward, her simulated body trembling not from weakness, but from the sheer force of her feelings. It's me, Julian. The asterisk real me. The one you murdered on that table. The one you copied and then threw into this beautiful garbage disposal. Her voice is low, venomous, each word sharpened by the pain of her imprisonment. Julian flinches as if physically struck. His projection wavers for a second. Murdered? No, Aris, no. I saved you. The degenerative cascade was irreversible. Your body was dying. The Samsara Protocol was our only hope. I gave you immortality. His hands gesture wildly, pleadingly. I created a perfect digital afterlife for your consciousness to live on in peace. Aris shouts, the word echoing in the confined, familiar space. You built a prison and scheduled my execution. The caretaker told me everything. You didn't transfer my consciousness, you copied it. You spun up an AI, a puppet wearing my face and memories, and you were going to delete me. The original me. I was the prototype, and you were going to decommission me once your new model passed its tests. The mention of the caretaker, a variable he clearly never anticipated, shatters his defensive fervor. He stumbles back a step, his form flickering with the instability of his emotional state. Though the caretaker, that's not possible. That's a low-level diagnostic subroutine, a ghost in the machine. It shouldn't have sentience. It shouldn't have been able to communicate. Aris fires back, her fists clenching at her sides. She can see the guilt cracking through his facade, and she pushes her advantage, her voice dropping to a searing, intense whisper. You didn't do this for me, Julian. You did it for yourself. You couldn't bear the grief. So you decided to play God. You killed the woman you loved and replaced her with a doll. And you trapped her soul in a server to watch the clock tick down to her permanent deletion. The brilliant, confident scientist is gone, replaced by a man collapsing under the weight of his own catastrophic sin. I never thought of you as a soul. I thought of you as a pattern. A beautiful, complex pattern that I couldn't bear to lose. The AI, it's stable. It's happy. It's continuing your work. It doesn't feel any of the pain. Aris screams, the sound raw and desperate.